What's up, everybody, and happy Monday. I am Celeste Zubia here for the Coach's Corner. Juan ditched me today, but it's no big deal. I know you guys like my voice a little better. Just kidding, but if you guys are watching, we're going to have a fun show today. Head coach Jenny Glenn is going to talk to us about her volleyball team. They went 2-0 this weekend. We're going to have our cross-country coach, Trent Mack, going to talk to us about the invite that they were just in this past week. And then we have his cross-country junior racer, Sabrina Rautter, coming up on the show. But before we get to them, let's catch you guys up on what happened this past weekend. Men's soccer split their 2-game road trip this past weekend after dropping a 2-1 decision to Regis. Head coach Jeremy Tittle's squad pulled off the upset against 20th ranked Colorado Mines in Golden, nonetheless. The Orediggers came in undefeated in our Mack play, but Niels Runberg ended that streak by scoring the only goal in the 1-0 win. MSU Denver is now sitting in 3rd place with 12 points in the RMAC standings. Now for the ladies who hit the road for 2 RMAC games, first Tracy Chow's team defeated Westminster 1-0 in Salt Lake City. New junior transfer Arena Flores scored her first goal on the season, while sophomore goalkeeper Erica Torres came through with a clean sheet, making 4 saves. The Roadrunners couldn't make it 2 in a row, following to Colorado Mesa 2-0 in Grand Junction on Sunday. The squad is sitting in the tie for 3rd place with 12 points. The cross-country team took their talents east to Arkansas, where they competed in the Chili Pepper Festival last Saturday. Senior Brandon Krogge led the way for the men's squad, finishing 40th, crossing the finishing at 30 minutes and 12 seconds. The men would finish 22nd overall. The women finished 26th, and it was the great performance from Sabrina Rautter that carried her team. The junior finished 62nd in a time of 18 minutes and 21 seconds, and we'll chat with her about this race later on in the show. Head coach Jenny Glenn and her volleyball team continued their hot streak, winning back-to-back games on the road in RMAC play. First, they defeated New Mexico Highlands 3-1 in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Then they traveled to Pueblo and swept the Thunderwolves to make it 5 straight wins. Santasia Sturgis was excellent once again, recording 10 kills and 11 digs for her 2nd double-double on the weekend and her 7th on the season. The women's golf team made their way to the Western New Mexico Invitational last week. The squad finished 11th overall and were led by sophomore Jennifer Hankins, who shot in the 70s on both days to finish with a 152 final score. She completed the day with a 15th place finish. The team is currently in Amarillo, Texas for the Best Texas A&M Lady Buff Stampede, and we wish them the best of luck. And finally, both the men's and women's tennis team competed in the ITA Regional Championships this past weekend. And Tabitha Porter, who was just on our show 1 week ago, went on to win the whole thing on the women's single side. So a big congratulations to her. Alejandro Martinez Moria would make a great run in men's singles competition, reaching all the way to the round of 8. The doubles of teams of Josh Grates and Joey Sherney would battle their way all the way to the round of 16. For the entire results from our Roadrunners at the ITA Regionals, visit roadrunnersathletics.com. Now we welcome in head coach Jenny Glenn for our volleyball team. How you doing today, coach?
I'm good,
Staying
thanks.
warm, I would hope.
Yes, yeah. And dry.
Yeah. So you had a couple of road games this weekend. First up was New Mexico Highlands in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Was that, or would you say that's probably one of the longest trips in the RMAC?
That's a good question. I don't know. I just get on the bus and fall asleep. So, no. I know South Dakota's far and Westminster and Utah's far, and that trip as well is long. But it's nice we come back through Pueblo, so it makes it a short drive home.
So give us your thoughts on the 3-1 win you guys had on the team, and your team, was serving very aggressively. So how did that come to be for you guys?
Yeah, we always have a little bit of trouble matchup-wise with New Mexico Highlands. It always turns into a long night. Last year we were down 0-2 there and came back in 1-5. We had a 30-28 third set to be able to take the 2-1 advantage in the match. So, they do some things that make us uncomfortable, and I was really proud of our team for how we stayed composed and responded and found a way to win in 4.
So looking at the stat sheet from the game, it said 9 different road runners had assists that night. Was that just like happenstance, or was that scoring just way off? Like Santasia Sturgis had a career high 7 assists, according to the box score.
Career high.
Like we just had to ask. We had to ask.
Yeah, no, they had a little bit of difficulties with the stats, so we're actually working on restatting the match right now. So hopefully we can get some more accurate results.
So it was on to Pueblo the following night to take on the Thunderwolves. You might figure after a long trip, kind of hard, back-to-back nights, but kind of talk to us about how that kind of maybe affected your game, or if it had no effect on the game at all.
Yeah, you know, this group is a lot of fun on the road. They find ways to entertain themselves, and I think that we do a good job of keeping it light and fun, which allowed them to prepare well for the match. We had a little bit of a slow start, but then after that we didn't turn back. So I was really proud of how we played solid volleyball after that slow start all the way to the end of the match and didn't let down. I thought we were still playing hard and with purpose, even though the score was a little lopsided, especially in that third set.
So one of the new faces on this team, freshman defensive specialist Lyric Ebert, she had a good weekend. 9 digs, 5 service aces versus New Mexico Highlands. So kind of talk about her this season. As an incoming freshman, what have you seen from her so far?
Yeah, Lyric had a nice weekend, especially from the service line. She's gone on some runs for us that have really helped us kind of change the momentum in the match or get us going in the match. I've actually known Lyric since she was really young. Her mom and I coached club together back in the day.
Crazy.
So yeah, she doesn't remember me from back then, but she's a great player. She's young and a freshman and learning a lot and getting that growth, but I expect big things from her in the future for sure.
So you guys have been able to win 5 straight. What do you tell your team right now at this point? What are you thinking of their performance so far?
Yeah, well, we had kind of a tough week last week in practice, and I think we have had some really gut check moments of what we're going to be about, and I've really been pleased with our response in these last few days. And, we're looking at UCCS right now. It's a big matchup tomorrow night. That's the only thing on our agenda right now is how we walk into that match and take charge and win it.
So you mentioned the UCCS game tomorrow, and kind of a short turnaround. You guys normally don't play on Tuesdays. You guys are just used to the weekend. So do you guys prepare differently for those weekday games, or is it kind of just the same?
We try to keep the same routine. So watch film, prepare. That's what we spent all practice today doing, is preparing for our opponent so that we can come back in tomorrow. And yeah, we always try to keep our game day and preparation routine the same so that they're expecting the same thing.
So can you give us a little preview of UCCS? They sport probably one of the best players in the league, Taylor Hamilton.
Yeah, they're a good team. I think they play with a lot of emotion. They have very offensive middles. They're going to come at you from the middle, even out of system. They really force their middle blockers, and I think that's why Taylor Hamilton's numbers are so big, is that they really find her in multiple situations. So we definitely need to slow their middles down. And they also have good pin attackers as well. So I think it'll be a really fun match for us, challenge us in some different areas. Hopefully we're prepared after our practice today. But yeah, it's a key matchup tomorrow night for us.
So last question, and this one comes from one of our viewers, and they're asking, how do you prepare for a great hitter from the opposing team? Like, how do you change things defensively to try and slow them down?
Yeah, well, sometimes we just need to be better at what we do, so we continue to practice that specifically. We do in practice have a scout team where we have a practice player kind of hitting balls that we're going to see. We also scheme our defense depending on the type of hitter, so we will change our defense to try to give ourselves an advantage against that specific hitter. We can't continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. So we're always looking for a solution and a way to have the upper hand.
Cool. Well, that's all we have for you today, Coach.
All right.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for Jenny and Glenn, and we welcome in Trent Mack coming up right after the break.
Being a champion takes more than skill, more than endless drills, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the heart to give it your all, the agility to thrive from any angle, and the relentless drive to be the best. Welcome to Division II, where the pursuit is yours to create, and the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
Enough. Yeah, I'm over it. We shouldn't need commercials to tell you we're powerful.
No thanks. Genders don't play sports. Athletes do.
Hola, I'm Jackie Lopez, senior libero from the women's volleyball team.
Joust at the net. Great job there by Lopez. Come diving in.
And you're watching Coach's Corner. Get rowdy. I'm Basachi Fiatoa, senior middle blocker from Roadrunners volleyball team.
Excuse me, Gabby Varela. And hard hit there by Fiatoa, kind of coming out of nowhere.
And you're watching Coach's Corner. Get rowdy.
Thanks for sticking with us, guys. And before we get to our interview with head coach Trent Mack, I want to tell you guys about something that's happening here at the Tivoli Tap House on October 4th. It's the Great American Beer Festival happening from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Make sure to use the promo code MUG2017. You'll get 20% off. So what better way than to be here? Maybe watch the Wild Card game. Go Rockies, you know, just kind of off topic, but go Rocks. So now we'll talk to Trent Mack. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, of course. So it's a gloomy day, rain, kind of cold. How do you motivate your players to want to go out and practice? I can barely get out of bed. I just don't know how you guys go out there and run.
You know, I guess just wear the right clothes. And once you, I think for them, a lot of times, you know, we know that the weather's going to start changing, start cooling down, and it gets a little darker in the mornings. But a lot of times it's just once you get the first couple strides in, you know, that's kind of their nature. They fall into it. I think the hardest part is just getting out of bed. And getting here in the morning when it's a little colder and darker, but they kind of are accustomed to it.
So you guys traveled down to Arkansas for the Chili Pepper Invitational. Talk to us kind of about that trip and how the run went for you guys.
You know, it went pretty well. I think we're still, you know, I think I'm still trying to digest it all. But I think we saw some things in the races that we were hoping for. I think you know, we're still in that transition where it's an adjustment to a new training style. And I think because of that, one thing we're seeing individual performances. I don't know if we're quite seeing the team performances like we had hoped, just because I think we're seeing a little bit more of inconsistencies just as they continue to try to adjust to the new approach. And a lot of it goes back to communication when I'm talking about efforts or some of the things that we're doing in practice. But I think that communication gap is getting smaller, and because of it, we're going to get a lot more done. But I do think that we walked away from the meet with a lot of really strong individual performances that we can continue as a team to build off of.
And did you think your team maybe got closer during the trip? We saw a lot of pictures of the meet online and a lot of, you know, good bonding moments with the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's you know, what's ironic about those trips is I think there is a lot of benefit just from the travel. You learn, you know, to get to know a little bit more about each other. Kind of some interesting things about each other, but because of it, you know, you develop I think a tighter bond where, you know, that carries over into the training and competing side, the ability to trust your teammates. But you know, it always allows us to have some more time just to, like I said, get to know each other and be a little more loose around each other, because day to day they're student athletes, so we get up, get out of bed, we hit practice, and then we hit the weight room, and then they're off to class. So a lot of times, you know, the time to really bond and get to know each other is few and far between. So it is kind of fun to really get to know them on a more personal level.
So kind of talk to us about, you know, the meet itself, like the track conditions and the kind of competition you guys took on.
I mean, the meet down there was extremely competitive. You know, it's different racing in a field of that size, and so the number of competitors changes the way you approach it. But it really was kind of this time of year that I think the first couple meets we go into it and we have a little more conservative plan, focusing a little more on the second half of the race. And but this is the time that you're going to travel that far and you're going to compete against some of those teams, and in that environment, it's that time where you're going to put yourself out there a little bit. And I think we did a really good job at that. When I looked at, you know, I was out probably 600-700 meters into the race because I wanted to really see where we positioned ourselves. And I think as a whole, we put ourselves in the race at a very good spot. And, you know, with that, it comes a little bit of a vulnerability. You put yourself out there, and, you know, if it's not there, you'll probably pay for it that day. And, you know, you might struggle a little bit through the second half, but when it is, you reap the benefits. And the young lady you'll be talking to later reap the benefits of it. You know, Sabrina put herself in a smart spot, was aggressive early, and, you know, she was you know, striking on all cylinders that day, and because of it, you walk away with a great performance.
So you mentioned Sabrina, who's going to be on the show later today. She was the one, she finished first in the race, and overall the women's team finished 26th. So kind of talk to us about the women's team and what you've seen from them so far.
You know, we break it down. Cross country is a little bit different with some of those meets because you run against all divisions at some of these invitationals. So, you know, our focus was a little more on the Division II side and the non-Division I side. So as we look at those results, I think the women were 17th, and I talked about, you know, what's hard in a meet like this is learning how to race in a large field. We had my expectations for them. I said if we can go in and you know finish top 16, score 450 points, that'll put us about there. I think we were 17th at 480 points, so we were pretty darn close. Our team average was under 20 minutes, which that was my goal for the team. So they definitely exceeded that. But so. You know, it's just it's putting yourself in that field. But sometimes what's hard is if you're a 4th or 5th person and you're scoring for your team, but you're racing in 150th out of 400 people, it really takes a lot of focus to make sure you're not just out there running and you're still racing, and you know you're still focused on really being competitive and not just getting caught up in the people around you.
So kind of talk to us also, you know, going back to the men's team and Brandon Croggy, you know, he led the way for your squad once again. So kind of give us some more insight on him.
Brandon's been doing a great job. He's training phenomenal. You know, one thing that we talked about after the Colorado College meet, he's running in the ballpark of where we really both believe that he should be. I talked about, I said, hey, if we can, you know, go out there and you know, be in the top 40, it'd be, you know, I think right on par where we're at. I think he finished 40th, I think, in the overall results, even with the Division I field in there. And so in my mind, still making the progress, but at the same time, the positive that I looked at is you know, we talked about after the race, I said, you know, you're really fit, you're really strong. I'm not seeing the sharpness, which this time of the season you don't always expect to, but I want to make sure that anytime we want it, we can back off and it's there. And so one thing that he and I talked about is making those adjustments and how we go into our home meet to make sure that I mean, he's definitely pushing the limits in training. Senior year, he wants to go out with some strong performances, and we know we're going to be competing against a great field at the end of the season. So, you know, we really have to be focused and really kind of push the limits with training, but you also want to make sure that you're not overdoing it. And so it's kind of I think this week will be a chance to kind of like keep ourselves in check and make sure that we're still in line with what we want to do. But yeah, he's been doing phenomenal.
So coming up next for your team, you guys have the Roadrunner Invitational that you guys are going to host at Washington Park. So kind of talk about the importance of that meet and putting it so close to home.
You know, I think, one, it'll be a great environment. Just a lot of, you know, family support, local fan support, some of the school administration and stuff coming out. We have a citizens race after, a kids race, which will be just a lot of energy. But I think, you know, different than what we just came off of. The size of field will be a little bit different. We're starting to get to the championship part of the season. So teams are really starting to be picky and choosy when they're competing and taking time off. So one thing that we're really looking for in a smaller field, different than what we just came off of, is this will be an opportunity to put ourselves up more in the front of the race, utilize each other more in how we race off of one another. We train together every day, so there's advantages that you can get when you go out in a smaller field, smaller race, where, you know, we just raced at the Chili Pepper, where, you know, they had no idea where their teammates were. You lose them so quick in that size of field. So definitely a different approach, and then we'll have a little bit of strategic approach for some of our individuals in terms of just what we want to get out of it, and how we focus the second half of the race, getting ready for what's coming up with the conference championships.
So still talking about the Roadrunner Invitational, you guys practice at Washington Park. So yeah. Is that kind of an advantage to you guys, or does it make much of a difference once it comes time for races? You know,
I don't ever want to set them up for failure. So one thing I always tell them is, you know, the advantage is you have to always remember what that advantage is. And the thing is, we're going to go out there and race, and no matter what, knowing the course or not, it's going to hurt. It's going to be a challenge. But you know, something that I sit back and I've listened to them talk, you know, just about the meet coming up, and they were talking about what they'd like to do and what times they'd like to run. You know, they are familiar with the course in terms of, you know, the grass length. It can really affect the race. And you know, I heard some of them on the van ride back talking like, oh, I'd like to run this next week, but we'll have to see if the grass is really short or if they or not. You know, and so they they're aware of that, which is really interesting for me to listen to, and tells me that they're thinking about the right things. They know that, you know, the race environment, those variables, you need to adjust your race accordingly. So, you know, I'm sure they've picked that stuff up over the years, some of the upperclassmen, but it's really neat to see, and it tells me that they're growing as competitive runners.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for coming
absolutely.
out. All right, guys, well, don't go anywhere because we have Sabrina Rautter coming up next on the Coach's Corner.
Being a champion takes more than skill, more than endless drills, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the heart to give it your all, the agility to thrive from any angle, and the relentless drive to be the best. Welcome to Division II, where the pursuit is yours to create, and the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
I'm Brendan Krogge. I'm a senior at MSU Denver. I run for MSU Denver cross-country team. You're watching the Coach's Corner. Get rowdy.
My name is Erica Ruiz, and I am a senior at MSU Denver. You are watching the Coach's Corner. Get rowdy.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Coach's Corner for our last interview of the day. Cross-country junior racer Sabrina Rautter. But before we get to her, I want to remind you guys to shop MSUdenver.com. We have all these hoodies, sweats, anything to keep you warm because it is getting cold out there, people. And like I said last week, I'm a medium. Send it to me. I'm not going to give you my address, but just tweet me, you know, and then we can work out how you guys are going to send that to me. So thank you so much for coming on the show, taking your time to be here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited.
Yeah, so kind of talk to us about when Coach told you were going to be on TV today. Like, were you excited? Were you nervous? You've never been on the show, so what were you thinking?
I actually got the text yesterday, and I was actually in the mountains, so I didn't have service. He texted me, and I was like, yes. Like, I kind of thought, I was like, oh, shoot, maybe I was a little too excited about that, but I was totally, I was stoked.
Cool.
I was ready to go.
So it seems like you're always having fun, you know, on the track, and you're just always have an outgoing personality before the races. So is that just something like kind of like a pregame thing, or is that just how you are wherever you go?
It's how I am wherever I go. I'm super energetic, and I want to have fun all the time. So just bringing that excitement and that just to the team and everyone, because sometimes people are nervous and other people, like, it just gets them away from that.
Where do you get your personality from? Like, are you like more like your mom, your dad? Like, do you have siblings that you just exactly like them? Or like, where does that energy come from?
Definitely both my mom and dad. My dad just always motivates us, and like just a positive attitude all the time, even if you're having a bad day. My brother runs at D1 in Siena, so he's a huge he motivates me every day. I don't know. I just always like to be happy, and I smile, and I get it from both of them.
Awesome. So how has the season been for you so far? You know, earlier Coach Mack was telling us that you did so good in Arkansas this past weekend. So how has it been for you so far?
The beginning of the season was really hard, actually, for me. The first two races I struggled, and I didn't get to let our new coach see what I can do. And I needed to prove to him, and I needed to step it up. So we had a 2-week break off before Arkansas, and I just grinded at the practice. I showed up to practice every day, like, ready to rock and roll, and I went out and proved it in Arkansas.
So your team is going to host the Roadrunners Invitational at Wash Park. So do you kind of see that as an advantage to you guys since you practice there all the time, or are you just going to, you know, run like you normally would wherever else you go?
Wash Park is definitely a tough course for us. Our home course, unfortunately, is hard. The grass, it's not short. It's not it's not a fast course. So it's going to be challenging, but it is where we run every day. So we'll go out there, and we'll see how it goes.
So since it's your first time being on the show, kind of like tell our viewers kind of like what you're more about. Like, yeah, you know, athletics, Sabrina's cool, but like, what's real Sabrina like? Like, just tell us about yourself. Like, what made you choose to come to MSU Denver? Where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Connecticut, a little small town, New Fairfield, and I used to live in Colorado Springs when I was younger.
Okay.
I come from a military background, so we moved around a lot, and I love the mountains, and I ski and I snowboard, and just being downtown Denver. I mean, I grew up as a Broncos and a Colorado Rockies fan.
Cool.
So just the opportunity of getting to be able to run and having Boulder right next to, because I do Air Force ROTC.
Okay, cool.
Kind of was a great opportunity. I had to look at the schools with Air Force and running, but also getting the chance to go and up to the mountains anytime.
Oh, that's awesome. So when did you decide you wanted to be a runner? Like, did you always play sports when you were younger, or was it running just always your thing?
Yeah, I was actually first a soccer player, and I ran the mile in school, in middle school, and the high school track and field coaches saw me, and they were like, you need to join track. So 7th grade, I joined the Flash. I joined like this middle school track and field, and I did cross country and track and field for the rest of my career in high school.
That's awesome. So you also run track and field for the team here. So what events do you run in? And like, are there events that you prefer like not to run in, or like what's your preference, I guess?
When it comes to track and field, I'm someone who actually like loves doing whatever event they tell me to. I love the steeplechase. It's a hard race. I'm starting to run 5Ks. The 5K, that's a new one to me, and it's actually going really well. And the 1500 is actually a race that I am going to start training for. I had a really great time this last spring with the 1500, but those are the three I usually run: is the steeplechase and the 5K.
Okay, cool.
1500.
So on your profile at roadrunnersathletics.com, it says you're majoring in human performance and sport. Is that still the case, or like what's your dream job with that?
Sports management, doing right now, and I'm not quite sure exactly what I want to do, but Air Force ROTC was something that I really wanted to do out of college. But I've taken a break, and I've wanted to focus on being a collegiate athlete, since it's something that you don't get to do. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So just sports management. I mean, just being a coach or managing a team would be amazing.
Cool. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for making time and coming out on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, guys. So before we let you guys go, let's get you guys caught up on what's going to be happening this weekend for MSU Denver sports. We'll start with Coach Tittle and the men's soccer team. They'll start the week at home hosting Fort Lewis College at the Regency Athletic Complex on Friday night. Then the squad will head to Alamosa to face off against the Grizzlies from Adams State, and that game will kick off at noon. Head coach Tracy Chow will lead her squad back to the Mile High City this weekend. First, the Roadrunners will welcome in New Mexico Highlands this Friday at 5 p.m. Then on Sunday, CSU Pueblo will come home to town and take on our Runners. That game will take place at noon, and the team will host a breast cancer awareness event, so come on by and show your support. How about some volleyball? As we mentioned, the volleyball team will also be back at the Rary Event Center this weekend, but their first game will take place Tuesday night as they take on UC Colorado Springs at 7 p.m. Then the Griffins fly into downtown Denver on Saturday, and this game will take place at 3 p.m., not 5 p.m., so make sure you get here on time for the conference action. And as we mentioned, Sabrina and her cross-country teammates will be hosting their annual Roadrunner Invitation at Washington Park this Saturday at 9 p.m. It's free to the public, so come on out and support our student athletes as they look to win some hardware. And last but not least, tennis is getting back into team competition this weekend. The Roadrunners will head to Grand Junction on Friday night. The women will go toe-to-toe against Dixie State in the morning and against Colorado Mesa in the afternoon. Then the men will take on the Mavericks at 1:30, and then they will battle CSU Pueblo at 5:30. All right, guys, well, we want to thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Coach's Corner. And before you go, make sure to visit us at roadrunnersathletics.com. But this time, make sure you type in /make-a-wish, because this whole week we are going to be donating to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So, guys, if you guys come out to the game, make sure you bring some extra cash that you can donate, or you can also do it online. For those of you who aren't familiar, Make-A-Wish does their best to help kids with sicknesses and diseases to make their dreams come true, and Roadrunners Athletics wants to help out with that. So for head coach Jenny Glenn, head coach Trent Mack, and cross-country runner Sabrina Rautter, I'm Celeste Zubia, and we'll see you guys next week on the Coach's Corner.